I posted a video a few days ago showing AncientArcher, which is sort of a game engine thing I've been toying with for several weeks. And I've learned a lot just by trying to make a game engine. And I was actually doing a challenge with some friends to try to make some quick little games just to get our feet wet in the game building world of programming. And well, we've hit a lot of unexpected turns. Mostly I'm mainly spearheading this project, but I couldn't do it without help. So I don't want to take all the credit, but I do recognize that I am kind of the lead on this, so to speak. So it's sort of my place to keep it going and make sure in one way or another things continue forward and doesn't get stagnant. That's my duty, as well as programming, of course. So been working on this project code. I guess it's sort of a code name, AncientArcher. That really just comes from, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, other than I wanted to get a little arrow shooting in the proper dynamics of an arrow flying through the air and it colliding correctly and all that. So I was just thinking, okay, if I can maybe get ancient archery working, that'd be a good step. But where this started out is trying to make like a first-person shooter turned into, okay, I kind of want to make tools to make games. And of course, the obvious question is here, why would you do that when there's Unreal and Unity and Godot and many others? There's so many other engines to use. And I've thought about this a lot, and I really don't have that good of an answer other than I want to know how to do it. I want to know how to make an engine. So that's why I'm trying to make my own. And it's I don't know how to explain it other than that, really. It's just I like building things from the ground up. And I like understanding things from a really in-depth level. So this gives me that experience where I kind of have to know how things work underneath the hood, and that's just what I like. So that's why I'm trying to make my own game engine rather than using Unreal or Unity or something. I have nothing against using other engines, and in fact, I'll get to that a little later, so we'll come back to that topic. But I want to talk about what I learned here very, very specifically, and I'm going to go through a little list. Bear with me for a second. My sticky notes, hopefully I don't reveal anything too embarrassing on my list. Anyway, okay, so this was kind of the plan. We had these 10 pseudo games worked out where we just wanted to spend a week trying to make each one just to see what would happen, basically. So we tried to make a tactics game, like Final Fantasy Tactics or something. A game where you scavenge around as a rat. A game where you just run endlessly. And side-scroller fighter, battle royale, MMO, plant growing. And plant growing was last week. Something started to happen during the MMO week in the plant growing where it was basically sort of turning into Minecraft, which was cool in its own right and really fun. But through this process of trying to make these games, it was a real struggle. And a lot of weeks where I was able to hack things together enough to make it sort of be something playable. But I started to run into roadblocks where this engine just didn't have support for something I wanted to do. So I would have to go try to build the support. And then in building the support, I would sort of get lost in this world of, am I doing this the way that makes the most sense? Or should I be doing it some other way? And I'll give you maybe a few examples that might bring it in perspective. Let me open a few classes here. So for example, I have my game.cpp and I have a global camera in here and a global display. Now I know like 100% for sure that this is not the best way of doing it. There's no doubt in my mind. But I'm trying to concoct a better way. And it's been like that every step of the way. just with every little thing, with how I'm going to load things in, with how I'm going to show text, with how I'm going to do lighting, with how I'm going to switch shaders. It's just been a constant, okay, what's the best way to do this? Okay, how should I be doing this? What way scales? What way can I reuse and build on? It's a lot of work. So the way this is sort of intended to be structured is there's the core engine, which will rarely get edited except when the whole thing is upgraded or new features added. And there's also the main game, which is in theory the main parts you would edit to make any new game. This is where you load in all your stuff and set up your logic sort of thing. And the main loop already has the timing ready and things like that. And there's a third folder called packages, and these are sort of intended to be plugins or add-ons, and they'll use parts of the engine to set up things that can work within your game, basically. So like I have a first-person player setup, and a GUI, and a master renderer, which is probably going away because I've found a better way to handle that. Some font stuff, a planter, which is sort of for planting more entities in the world. Primitive system, and which is just for drawing squares and circles and stuff like that. A side scroller player, a skybox, and a spawner. So these were things that, like, as I was making the games, they had their intended purposes of fulfilling a role within the game. Like for the side scroller fighter, I made the spawner to spawn little enemies, and so on. But okay, once we were doing 7 plant growth, where you were essentially going to try to make a garden and get plants growing, and make you have to water them and tend to them a little and things like that. And what ended up happening almost this whole week is I would concoct this little plan to make a plant, and then I would just notice things that wouldn't work so well. I mean, maybe I could kind of hack them together, and sure, I could get a little set of blocks growing to look like a plant or something. But it was missing a lot of stuff, like it wouldn't sit on the ground right. What if you destroyed the block below it? Would it destroy? And that sort of architecture behind the scenes to set up all that was just basically you'd have to make another package for it. That was like the answer. And it got to the point where just expanding these packages rather than working on the engine, then I was like, okay, I kind of need to revisit how I'm doing things. And a big thing for me was I don't really have any scene management, and I started to notice that scene management's pretty big. So I started working on getting more of a world structure set up, and I really have hit a roadblock here. So in my latest branch, which is actually not in this branch, I'm going to play here just for the heck of it. This is not the latest branch. I think this is build where you can run around and do stuff. So this is kind of how it is right now. You destroy blocks. You've got a little symbol to represent where you are. It does actually collide. The falling doesn't trigger correctly. So you can kind of walk over empty spaces, but if you jump, you will fall back down. So there's a little logic to work out there. I've kind of put that on the back burner for now. A lot of other things going on. And I've got some basic lighting and texturing going on. As you can see, turn on a player radius light to just a point light. So once you get deep underground, you can actually still see things. Other than that, it's just a constant light that is approximately the direction of that skybox light. I don't think it's perfect, but actually I think it might have it backwards now that I'm looking at it. So it is what it is right now. This isn't actually going to get worked on anymore. This kind of project's done. So we're kind of moving on anyway. But this is where it's at. And you can also plant blocks and destroy them as well. So they get placed in the whole entity list. Let me destroy it. Oh, I have plenty. So, yeah, there's a lot you can do with this. this was actually a lot of fun, just getting blocks rendering and playing around with all this and getting a layer system kind of worked out. I'm gonna fall here so you can see the layers. There's layers you can dig down through, and eventually it's lava and then you fall through. And yeah, that's all just set up in this main game constructor. It loads everything in, builds up the scene real quick. So another thing I wanted to add was some sort of level loader, but it's like I can't really add a level loader until I know how all my entities are going to work. I still need a proper mesh loader and that whole system, and I need a scene management, which is a kind of where I left off. So I was working on a new package called World, and it was more like a scene thing where it brings in all your pieces. Because currently the world is sort of this primitive renderer thing, which makes not a whole lot of sense the more I think about it. But it encompasses your core shader that you start with, some lights, all the entities, all your little primitive drawing. So this is getting changed more back to a primitive drawer, and a lot of the stuff's being abstracted out and going to be scene managed. So you might be asking, all right, what's the point of this video? Well, it's basically to kind of document the amount of work it takes to even start a game engine. Like just the amount of thought it takes to organize everything, and the amount of restructuring, and that you have to actually try to build stuff with it to see where you're at and to see what's working and what isn't. Because if you're not making stuff with it, then, well, it's not exactly a game engine, I guess. But this is my experience so far. So what I'm actually doing, this week is Space Shooter Bullet Hell game. We're calling this Project Kronos Javelin. So hopefully I'll have a demo of that Sunday. I mean, I will have something. I don't know how good it's going to be. But this week, taking a step back from this engine and the work I've been putting into it, and we're going to go to Unreal. I'm going to go to Unreal. Friends are going to follow me onto Unreal here and help out. So hopefully we can get a space shooter going on there called Kronos Javelin. And it's going to be very simplistic, of course, in the first week, but if it's something we really enjoy, we might continue. But I need this experience at this point because I want to see how they do things. And we'll probably try some with Unity too and see how they do things and get a feel for it. Because eventually, a best practice is a best practice. I'm probably missing some stuff just because I haven't used other game engines a ton. I guess I come from a world of programming where I kind of learned old school in a way, because that's kind of just how Ohio University started with it, just straight from the console, logic programming, computer science style. They didn't really get into using many tools and stuff. It was like you got to know the logic behind it, and that's still what intrigues me, and that's sort of why I've avoided game engines, other game engines, and wanted to build my own. Another reason there. It's just I wanted to know the inner workings. I guess I already said that, so that's not really another reason, but maybe it explains my train of thought a little better. So it's something. So that's where I'm at here. As of this day, where are we at? June 19th. Oh, it's 2:40 something in the morning. Seems like a crazy hour to be up, but it's not that bad actually, because I slept from like 7 o'clock to midnight. I got off work and just hard crashed. So tired, more tired than I realized. But now I'm late and kind of wide awake. So thought I'd do this video while it was on my mind and just give a little documentation of what's going on here. This is also using, my engine here is all using OpenGL, and that's just because it's easy to get going with some libraries. It's become apparent to me that I need to support more things with my engine too. But I think for now I'm going to stick with just OpenGL for a while, and later I'll look at maybe adding support for other OSs and for DirectX. But right now it's just Windows only, OpenGL. I'm sure you could get it running on Linux too. You just have to do a little messing with the build files. I have no doubt in my mind that I could get this all running on Linux pretty easily. But yeah, alright. Well, that'll do it for this video. If you got this far, consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications to keep updated on things. I also post a lot of random how-to videos, so that's kind of the name of this channel. Code tech tutorials. I just want to talk about code, technology, and maybe do some tutorials here and there. So it's going to be a peppering of things, and also just some of my personal experiences. So you can probably find links in some other videos in my description if you want to follow me personally. I'm not going to post any of my friends that are helping out because I haven't asked them or post any of their links. But you know, we're all very new at this point too. So, all right. Well, I hope you have a good evening, day, night, whatever it is for you, and I'll see you in the next video.